All right, we're officially calling this meeting to order at 4:33 p.m. of the Legislative Committee for the GRPS School Board. Thank you everyone for being here. What a nice crowd we have today.
Loyal, consistent.
So let's start off by just taking a roll. Let's make sure all our folks are here, minus Miss Kathy Downs-Lewis. Trustee Eatman.
Here.
Trustee. All right, and I am here, and we are ready to go. And today we have Ms. Simus giving us a legislative update today. Sorry, excuse me. Is there any public comment to be made today? Seeing as there is none, we are moving into our first report, legislative update from Ms. Simus.
Thank you. So briefly, as we had mentioned, one of the reasons I wanted to keep today and just to connect is there has not been a lot of legislative movement over the fall, summer, as we've been connecting over some of our Zooms. This Wednesday, they are planning to gather and hold session in the House, and that looks like it is going to be the only session day until after the election. And we are hearing through the grapevine that even committees are not going to be granted a lot of permission to be gathering to pass bills to get ready to go to the floor after this week as well. There were some committee dates that were posted for this week literally on the way here, so I didn't even get them in our slides. So I will go over them briefly. The Education Committee was posted, and as we had talked before, the dyslexia package that was kind of looming out there, it is on the agenda for this week. Only two of the bills, the two that we were a little more concerned about, Glanville's bill being one of them, they still did not add back to the package. They kept them down to kind of a more of a minimal effect. It will be interesting to see if they take it up for a vote or if they will continue for more commentary and stakeholder feedback. But it is my gut reaction, since they've already done some stakeholder feedback and with a limited fall, that we could expect those two bills to go forward for a vote. And because I did not have time literally on the way here to put them in here, I will email them all to you. So if you have the chance to review them this evening, give them a skim and see if, if they're concerning enough to us, if we want to place, a card of neutrality or opposition. Opposition is pretty strong. I know we weren't supportive, so we won't do that. But just want to kind of flag those things going forward as they start to come to committee. With that being said, one of the big things that we had talked about, and I'm going to go out of order a little bit here with this, is the, of course, and it's in the Senate Bill 911 because it was kind of a 911 issue, of the MIPSER's bill that they worked on as part of a quote-unquote budget fix this last at the end of session before they recessed for the summer. And as you all might recall, that was pretty confrontational between the governor and the Senate and the House, and getting stuck in back and forth with chambers. And ultimately it ended up in the House in late of night in negotiation, and the Speaker of the House held it long enough for it to not be able to go back into the Senate in time before a new session day began. And because of that, it passed as is, and many of our own House members from the Kent County delegation expressed large concerns with how it went through, and that revisions needed to be made. If not a supplemental budget. As you all also recall, there were large cuts to 31A for our mental health funding. So that has been something that I know our Kent County delegation has been very expressive to leadership on. Unfortunately, it does not sound like a supplemental will be possible this week or be coming forward at all, or any kind of funding bills. But the rumor mill has it is that those bills will be coming after Election Day. So I think everyone's just kind of waiting to see how the chips fall, and then really what size of a supplemental, the Democratic trifecta feels like they need to push after Election Day, and that will be reflective if they keep their majority and make some of those fixes to 31A in the MIPSER's bill, or if it's more broad and expansive if they go into the minority. So with that being said, the Senate has been meeting, not as frequently as I'm sure they would like to, But without the House meeting, the Senate doesn't really want to cause a huge backlog over in the House. So they did meet last week to line up the Senate Bill 911, reflecting some changes to the MIPSR's bill to go over to the House this week, Wednesday. And you'll see here the three big changes that the Senate felt like they needed to make before the House got their hands on it was eliminating the floor funding provision. They're capping the liability rate that school districts pay for MIPSRs at 15.21%. And they're eliminating the 3% that employees pay for retiree health insurance. So you'll see that the current version has employees paying the cease the paying the 3% on October 1 of 2025, a year from now. The House is going to take this and modify it, right? These aren't final changes. It will be interesting to see if they expand those or if they tweak within those three. But the House will act on this Wednesday, and we've been told that they're caucusing late night Tuesday, specifically over this issue, so they can actually take action hopefully on Wednesday and not just caucus the whole time.
I had a quick question. Can you explain number one, eliminate the floor funding provision? I'm not exactly sure.
So I'll send a little more detail. These
Yeah.
were kind of just shot over right before I came because it's all pretty quick.
Okay.
But let me send you a little more detail
Okay.
on it because I think I've got the answer,
Yeah.
but I don't want to speak incorrectly.
No, absolutely. I appreciate that.
Yep, absolutely. So with that, many of you have been participating over the summer, and thank you so much because I think it has been very helpful, and I've heard very positive things back from offices and appreciating some West Michigan engagement and stakeholders. And as I've explained to all of you, a lot of our chairs are from the east side of the state, right? Senator Camilleri is from the east side, Senator Polhinky. Our House chairs are all from the east side of the state. They have West Side members in their committees, but the chairs leading those committees are all from the east side. And it has been very helpful and I think eye-opening to have some of the conversations and the dialogue that we have had, particularly surrounding the library bills that we've had 2 meetings now on. And our most recent, having some of the librarians themselves join the conversation, and Dr. Roby has been engaged and involved with those as well. I think we still have more conversation to be had. I think they're being receptive and, hearing our concerns. I think where we made some traction and movement, and, members, please chime in as you were, there too, but I think they heard the various concerns and how the bill is broad stroke and a broad umbrella. And if they are going to put these kind of unfunded mandates or implementations forward, they need to be more specific for the certain size of the school district and the percentages of certified librarians that they're going to require. So just saying that, every school must have a certified librarian for a size of GRPS, it's a much larger financial requirement and lift than it is for East Grand Rapids, per se. So talking through that, they seem to kind of take a step back and realize that. So maybe it's a minimum number, and also how long are you going to give a school district to do that? And then I really did try to continue to push for a supplemental tie-bar bill and not just funding in the budget, because we know the funding in the budget isn't always going to be there, and that's up and down, or who the chair is going to be. So if this is something we really want to put forward, to make sure our schools have the resources to implement it accordingly. But I'll pause here and let committee members please chime in here. I know they were very long conversations and we had to end abruptly. So if there are questions or further concerns that you want to get back to folks on these bills, would love to hear them.
I kind of feel like this ties in with something else that I think could easily be able to champion both. And so when I think about this, and let's say they're giving us, support, or they're trying to make positions like this become more available, there also is in that adjacent, I guess it did pass, a bill that passed in regards to all new, the first 3 years, new teachers that have to have that mandatory mentor.
It did, yeah.
And so my aspect of it is how are they complementing and supplementing for both of those? Like, it's one thing to have this and you're putting in that, but if they're new, then they're obligated to have that. Where is that funding coming for to help support that, which impacts not just this, but also other stuff in the district because it's tied in. So I would love for them to, one, understand the significance of what they're asking, and two, and then to see that it's not equitable, truthfully, if you think about it in that report, in that approach, where we're having some issues, right? To even find talent, and that's just not us, but I'm speaking about us. And so when I think about that aspect of it, how can they see that more clear, or what can be communicated to them to be able to see that what they're asking, cool, great, love the support, great that you want to get this, but also that comes with other things that they're already approved that will impact other areas of what we're talking about here. So I guess I don't know how to.
Yeah, I hear that, and we certainly talked through, right, those teacher evals. They were, again, just a very kind of a broad stroke and various impacts for the size of the school districts, and I think that was lacking in reflection in some of that. To your point, the difficulty is that it has already gone into effect and is being implemented, but I think we can, when we're having these meetings, reference the parallels and the unfunded requirements that are being brought forward. I think, unfortunately, and maybe we can connect on this later, but after some time, in 6 months from now, if we can look at that and say we had how many new teachers that came forward that needed that mentor, and that was the common denominator, and this is what it cost us, I think, that's good feedback that we can go back with.
Thank you. And then would they also, let's say we got in staff under this, would they also be obligated to have that 3-year mentorship too under this?
That is a good question. I don't know. I would have to look to see how the teacher eval bill
I'm
is
curious
written.
yeah.
But it might be close. I want to say no, but it might be a possibility. So I will look and make sure.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good question.
So,
Because I know it's a profession, but also I know that there's teachers who are also librarians. And so if there is an intersection that occurs, yeah, we got to have the financial support to support it.
So if I understood it in our meeting, I think the encouragement is even, and Dr. Roby brought up a good point to counter this, was they were saying, we can provide that incentive. I forget exactly how many more months it was, but it was a kind of a shorter term incentive for teachers to go become certified librarians and then move into that role. I don't think they would then be required underneath the teacher eval anymore.
Okay.
But to Dr. Roby's point, she highlighted, that's great, but then now I have to replace that teacher that now you just incentivized to move out of that role to become a certified librarian. So it goes both ways, but I think if they moved into that new role, they would not be required.
Okay.
yeah, I remember when we were talking to the Michigan Association of School Librarians, talking about strengthening the pipeline of folks who can get that degree. And I do remember Dr. Roby's comments of saying, okay, we can encourage our school teachers, but then we're out another staff member, so it's not like we're gaining anyone. And I remember talking about the need to strengthen that pipeline before we ever try to pass a bill such as this, because it's like putting the cart before the horse, right? And while I understand that folks may, I guess, be forced in a way to go get that degree, I'd rather have folks, learn about the opportunities to get this degree, do it of their own volition, aside from, hey, well, you're a media specialist, and unless you go get your library science degree, you may not be able to work in our library anymore. So I think, I think that last conversation we had was very fruitful. I think sometimes, to the point I think Trustee Ebman also made is, and I think Dr. Roby as well, is, folks don't know exactly what's going on in the, at the building level when it's, Michigan Association of School Librarians or, senator, state senator. But I really was grateful for that last conversation. So I'm wondering, I guess, if there is going to be this, pretty big pause, right, of any action at the state legislature, do you think that that's something that folks are, I guess, kind of itching to move on, as soon as they come back? Is that something that we're kind of, I guess, I don't know where other school districts are in terms of, their thoughts on this? Do you know of anything, any talks about this bill?
Yeah, I think twofold. So if we see the House flip and Democrats lose control and we no longer have our trifecta, I could very easily see this being pushed through very quickly in that lame duck period,
Right.
which is going to be pretty long. So I think we see lame duck start pretty much right the week after Election Day. They'll take that fall break, hunting break, 2 weeks, the week before Thanksgiving and then Thanksgiving. And then when they come back, it could go all the way right up until Christmas. If they don't finish, they could still come back and it go until the end of the year. That would be very unprecedented, but also it'll see how much they have backlog that they want to push through.
Right.
But even if, let's say, it's just kind of like a 3-4 week lame duck, I could see this being one that they want to push through, and that is kind of one of the reasons of the intent of having those meetings over the summer, even though
Right.
it was slow. I wanted that seed to kind of be planted, so when it does start moving, we're at the table and they're willing to have those conversations when it's moving fast. Especially since it's already been through committee and working on changes, it could move pretty quickly.
Okay. And I hear, just from folks working in, the political realm, right, that it could be a possibility that we lose the control of the House. And
It really
so,
is.
yeah.
Yeah. And I'll jump ahead a little bit and come back. But our the political y'all are watching the news, right? The political climate is quite fascinating right now, and I think we're seeing various polls and but from the conversations that we've been having with the firm, with our politicos, I think the national polls that we're seeing are ranking Michigan a lot higher one way than what they really are on the ground. We just had a conversation where we was heading state parties that have one party up by 1, and then they have another party, that same party, down by 2. So 3 points is margin of error in those political polls. So basically, it's a flip of a coin right now. But it was very fascinating. Just today, it came out that the Michigan House Democrats have about over 3 times buy-in for airtime than the House GOP did. I don't think the other side of the aisle was prepared for that. Airtime doesn't do everything, but it moves the needle. So it'll be interesting to see if that moves that poll. But right now, neck and neck, and pretty much either way it swings, it's going to be by 1 seat. We're predicting one way or the other. And with that, we went through some kind of the timing already. But I will say one of the political things that was interesting, and I think we're going to see it more on local, mailers and TV ads both ways, and it's a very easy hit for House Dems, is the 31AA, the mental health funding. So the State Board of Education over the summer, you might have saw they did pass a resolution calling on the legislature to pass a supplemental to fix that. The fact that they haven't and they're waiting until after the election day, it'll be interesting to see if that pressure continues to build and if they come back to do that before election day or not, if they kind of keep getting hit with that. The rumors of the revised dyslexia package was true as I was on my way over here. And then also keeping an eye on that FAFSA package that we had touched on, that also is over in the House, and that's one I could see being a lame duck push through. So the last thing that I want to touch on, this is one that moved through the House and is over now in the Senate. Again, I could see the Senate, not even being lame duck, I could see the Senate pushing this through. I don't see any huge red flags, but I'm gonna look over to my left again. Let me know afterwards. So this has to do with motorists running school bus red lights and creating a new technology and infrastructure to monitor that. So a couple of the bullet points from the summary is redirecting approximately $350 in civil infrastructure fine revenue per violation back to school districts' transportation departments. And this bill would allow and create for digital video evidence from a stop arm camera, so it would be installed right on the arm as it's extended on the buses. And that would automatically be transmitted to local law enforcement agency whenever a suspected violation occurs. It does not require any funding from the state, and it may result in a small to medium-sized windfall to transportation departments. It passed the House last fall with rare and quite large bipartisan support. It was one of the few things that folks kind of rallied behind. And it voted out of the Senate committee already, and it will be moving to the floor. So I expect that to go through in the next couple of weeks. So technology may be helping us out in a couple of ways.
So I have a question about this
Yeah.
one. So stop arm camera, do most buses already, do you know if they already have those equipped? Is that something that we'd have to, retrofit on buses that we already have in our fleet?
So I know some individual school districts do. I do not know if GRPS does. I do not believe so.
Luke, Mr. Transportation? No? Okay.
And I know the ones that do have the cameras, really the new technology tying this in is the automatic feed to the law enforcement. So right now, the school districts that do it, right, it's really just a camera recording it. They can then turn it over. That new automatic feed is more advanced, even for those that have it.
Sounds like a good bill to me.
Yeah.
Oh, do y'all have any thoughts on?
So that, like we had mentioned, a pretty late summer, but a couple of things that I wanted to flag as we're moving into this Wednesday. I will certainly send a summary this Friday, now that they're gonna actually be back and do something this week over what the revisions are gonna be to that MIPSers bill, because that's gonna be kind of the hot topic this week. But
All right.
any questions or concerns? So,
No.
thank you guys.
Thank you so much for your update.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Is there, I guess I do have a question.
Yeah.
Is there anything in the rumblings that we should be maybe be aware of that might be coming down as a precaution to be proactive in this? Even if it's not just fully just whispers or something that I think oftentimes, and this is not even to your regard, like we're almost responding, and I
Yeah.
would love to be able to kind of see if there's ways to get ahead of certain things, or to even conceptualize or to be innovative around certain things as they're being rumored or talked about at that higher level. If I don't know if there's anything that we should posture ourselves to be looking out for or considering.
Yeah, I appreciate the question. It's a good one. I think that is my high goal going into the new year when we start the new legislature, to come up with some of our own ideas that we might want to pass or really rally behind. I think right now, with it being so limited, unfortunately, lame duck and this period of the legislature really is a reactive, defensive time, because they're just going to be pushing and we have to be ready for what they push. But I do think proactively, the couple of the things that they are going to push through that we have big concerns on are the library bills, which we're going to continue to engage with proactively. And then I think we can add the FAFSA bills to that docket for some meetings, because that's gonna go. And it's very similar to the library feel. It's the same bill sponsor, Chairman Camilleri. And as of right now, that is a unfunded requirement as well, even though he's expanded the ability to opt out of completing the FAFSA and still graduating. We know the increased level of paperwork and tracking and all of that for our school counselors and ministers are going to increase significantly.
Yeah.
So I think I can add that to the roster, and if you all, similarly working with Scotty, can, you know, share your availability, I think it would be a good one to add.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, I don't know who our admin is. Luke, are you filling in for Mr. Helmholt today? Or who is our person our designee, our district designee today? That could be me. That could be you? Perfect. All right, so we've got a fall projection next as a report. Is that something that you?
No, I'm sorry, I don't have that.
Okay.
I think we're just.
Is that it
just
for
doing
today?
legislative today, yeah.
Okay. And then obviously, Representative Glanville's not here, so.
Yeah, well, so the, after the last time we had Rep. Glanville come up,
Yeah.
I think you were there. We
I
did
was,
just
yeah.
kind of a small meeting with some board members
Mm-hmm.
and our board president and Dr. Roby, and she gave just a lovely summary of the budget and the efforts that she made and frustrations with 31A and some of the other points that we made. But I think after we get through the fall, if we do one more of these before dissolving, I'd be happy to see if we could get another member of our delegation to just kind of give a summary of the year and their projections of looking ahead into the new year, if that's something we're interested in.
Yeah, that'd be great. I think to have more state lawmakers here to kind of share kind of their view of things happening at the state level, I think that'd be great. I really did appreciate our conversation with Carol Glanville. When was that? About two months ago?
About a month or two. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Time's flying.
All right, so, and then we had our Q&A. So, all right, if there's no other business,
I think we just have to make sure we follow up to know what those fall things were.
yeah. And if you want to would you want to send out an email? I don't know how good your note-taking skills were that day, but I've got a few notes of my own that I can also share with our committee, but then also our,
From Rep. Glanville?
yeah,
Yeah, and I think actually following that that week, I sent a legislative summary on
Yeah,
Friday.
okay.
And I attached the PowerPoint that she went over.
yeah.
I'm happy to resend it, but y'all should have the PowerPoint
Okay.
that she presented
yeah,
that day.
you're right. I remember that update. So, all right, if there is no other business, all right, then we are adjourning this meeting at 5:01 p.m. Thank you.